Emma had been cutting hair at Tony's barber shop for the past 5 years. It wasn't a glamorous job, but she loved it. There was something deeply satisfying about transforming someone's look, about the way people walked in looking tired, stressed, or disheveled and left feeling confident, lighter, like they were ready to take on the world. It was more than just cutting hair, it was about making people feel good about themselves. The shop was small but cozy, with old wooden floors that creaked when you walked on them and the faint scent of aftershave lingering in the air. The walls were lined with pictures of past customers, old newspaper clippings, and a neon sign that buzzed softly in the background. It was the kind of place where locals came to catch up on gossip, where fathers brought their sons for their first haircut, and where people knew each other's names. That afternoon, the little bell above the shop door jingled, and Emma glanced up from sweeping hair off the floor. An older man had stepped inside, standing near the entrance as if unsure whether he should be there. His clothes were worn, his boots scuffed, and his beard had grown wild, reaching down to his chest. His shoulders were slightly hunched, as if life had weighed him down for too long. Emma recognized that look instantly. Her grandfather had been a Vietnam veteran, and she had seen that same quiet hesitation in his eyes when he talked about the years after the war, when the world moved on, and he felt like he no longer belonged. She set the broom aside and walked over with a warm smile. "Can I help you, sir?" The man cleared his throat, his voice rough, as if he hadn't spoken much lately. "I was just wondering how much for a simple cut and beard trim." Emma followed his gaze to the price list on the register. She could tell by the way he shifted on his feet that he already knew the answer, knew he couldn't afford it. There was a flicker of shame in his eyes, the kind that comes from wanting something so simple but knowing it was out of reach. She hesitated for only a moment before making up her mind. "How about this?" she said with a warm smile. "First-time customer special, no charge." The man's eyes widened slightly. "Oh, no, miss, I couldn't. I insist," Emma interrupted gently. "Take a seat." He hesitated a moment longer, then nodded, as if surrendering to kindness was something he wasn't used to. Slowly, he walked over and sat down in the chair. Emma draped a cape around his shoulders, picking up her scissors. "What's your name?" she asked as she began combing through his thick, matted hair. "Henry," he said quietly. "Well, Henry, you're in good hands," she assured him. As she worked, Henry began to relax. At first, he was stiff, as if he expected someone to suddenly tell him he didn't belong there. But as she snipped away the unkempt strands of hair, he started talking, slowly at first, but then more freely. He had served in the Marines, spent years overseas. When he came home, everything had changed. The world had moved on without him. He had struggled to adjust, struggled to find a job that made sense after everything he had seen and done. His friends had drifted away, and he had no family left. One bad break led to another, and before he knew it, he was living on the streets. Emma listened, her heart aching. She had heard similar stories before, but it never got easier. "People think it's easy," Henry murmured. "Just get a job, get back on your feet. But it's not that simple. You don't know where to start. You get stuck in this cycle. And after a while, you start believing you don't deserve better." Emma met his eyes in the mirror. "You do deserve better, Henry." He let out a short chuckle, shaking his head. "Not sure the world agrees." "Well, the world is wrong," she said firmly. She continued trimming his hair, making careful, deliberate strokes, shaping it in a way that framed his face. Then she moved on to his beard, working slowly, making sure every stroke of the razor was precise. As the beard disappeared, so did some of the years etched into his face. He had deep lines around his eyes, evidence of a life that had been anything but easy, but now, without the thick beard hiding him, he looked lighter, less burdened. When she finished, she turned the chair so he could see himself in the mirror. Henry blinked, as if he barely recognized the man staring back at him. He reached up, touching his face, running a hand over his freshly shaved jaw. His eyes glistened. "I don't know how to thank you." Emma patted his shoulder. "You already did more for this country than I ever could. This one's on me." Henry looked like he wanted to say something more, but he just nodded, swallowing hard. He stood up, rolling his shoulders as if he finally felt like himself again. As he stepped outside, looking 10 years younger and a little prouder, Emma felt good. This was why she loved her job. It wasn't about money, it was about people. But that moment of warmth didn't last long. A door slammed behind her, and she turned to see Tony, her boss, storming out of the back room. His face was red with anger, and his thick arms were crossed over his chest. Emma, what the hell was that? She frowned. What do you mean? You just gave away a free haircut. He snapped. Emma's stomach twisted. Tony, he was a veteran. He needed it. I don't care if he was the Pope, Tony shot back. This is a business, not a charity. You don't work for free, and I don't pay you to give out free haircuts. Emma felt her pulse quicken. Tony, it was one haircut. One too many, he growled. You wanna be a saint? Do it somewhere else. You're fired. Emma felt the words hit her like a slap. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? His expression was hard, unyielding. Get your stuff and get out. For a moment, Emma just stood there, stunned. She had worked here for 5 years. 5 years of loyal service, of taking extra shifts, of covering for other barbers when they called out. And now, just like that, she was out. Her hands clenched into fists, but she didn't argue. She wasn't going to beg. Wordlessly, she grabbed her scissors, her apron, and walked toward the door. Just before she stepped out, she turned back, her voice steady. You know, Tony, the best thing about hair. It always grows back, but respect, once you lose it, it's gone. Then she walked out, head held high, not knowing that 30 minutes later, the mayor would arrive, changing everything. Emma walked out of Tony's barber shop with her head held high, but the moment she stepped onto the sidewalk, reality hit her. She had just lost her job. No warning, no severance, just fired on the spot for an act of kindness. She took a deep breath, trying to push down the panic rising in her chest. The streets bustled around her, people walking past, oblivious to the fact that her world had just changed in an instant. She looked down at the scissors in her hand, the very same pair she had used for years, and for the first time, she felt lost. What was she going to do now? She had bills to pay, rent due in less than a week, and not much in savings. As much as she wanted to believe that things would work out, the weight of uncertainty settled heavily on her shoulders. But as she stood there, trying to collect herself, she heard a voice behind her. Miss. She turned and saw Henry standing a few feet away. His clean-shaven face was almost unrecognizable from before. He looked younger, sharper, like a man who had finally been given a second chance. You okay? He asked, concern etched into his features. Emma forced a small smile. Yeah, just got fired, that's all. Henry's brows furrowed. Because of me, she shrugged. Tony didn't like that I gave you a free haircut. Henry clenched his jaw, his hands curling into fists. That's not right. You were just trying to help. Emma sighed. Some people only see numbers, not people. Henry looked down for a moment, as if thinking something over, then met her eyes. Listen, I don't have much, but I know what it's like to be left with nothing. If you need anything, she cut him off with a smile. I'll be okay, Henry. But thank you. Before he could say more, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb, and the back door swung open. A tall man in a dark suit stepped out, his presence commanding attention. Emma recognized him immediately, Mayor Richardson. What was the mayor doing here? People on the sidewalk started whispering, some pulling out their phones. The mayor glanced around before his eyes locked onto Henry. Then, to Emma's shock, he strode right up to him. Sergeant Henry Wilkes, the mayor asked. Henry straightened slightly, caught off guard. Yes, sir. The mayor extended his hand. I've been looking for you. Henry hesitated, then shook his hand, still confused. You have? Mayor Richardson smiled. Yes, someone told me about a kind-hearted barber who gave a veteran a fresh start today, and I wanted to meet the man who inspired that act of generosity. Emma blinked. Someone told him, but who? The mayor turned to her next, offering his hand. And you must be Emma. She shook his hand, still trying to process what was happening. That's me. The mayor's expression softened. I heard what happened to you. I'm sorry about your job. But I also heard about what you did for Henry here, and I have to say, I wish the world had more people like you. Emma wasn't sure what to say. I just did what felt right. The mayor nodded, and that's exactly the kind of spirit this city needs. He turned to Henry. Sergeant Wilkes, your service to this country is invaluable, and it's unacceptable that you've been struggling the way you have. I'd like to personally help you get back on your feet. We have a veteran assistance program that provides housing and job opportunities, and I'd be honored if you'd let us help. Henry's mouth opened slightly in shock. Are you serious? The mayor nodded. Absolutely. For the first time in what seemed like years, Henry's eyes filled with something that resembled hope. I don't know what to say. The mayor smiled. Say yes. Henry let out a shaky breath. Yes, sir. Emma felt a lump in her throat. She had only wanted to give Henry a bit of dignity, but now, because of a simple act of kindness, his entire life was about to change. But then the mayor turned back to her. As for you, Emma, he continued, I don't think someone as compassionate and skilled as you should go without work for long. In fact, I have a proposal. Emma blinked. A proposal? The mayor gestured toward the car. I'd like to invite you to City Hall. We've been looking for a way to launch a community outreach program, something that provides free services to those in need, including haircuts for the homeless and veterans. I'd like you to be part of that. Emma's breath hitched. Wait, you want me to work with the city? The mayor nodded. Yes, full salary, benefits, and you'd be doing exactly what you love, helping people. Emma felt her heart racing. Just an hour ago, she had been fired for an act of kindness. Now, that same kindness was opening doors she never could have imagined. She turned to Henry, who was smiling at her. Told you good things happen to good people, he said. Emma let out a small laugh, shaking her head. This is unbelievable. The mayor chuckled. Believe it? What do you say? Emma didn't even hesitate. I'd love to. The crowd that had gathered around erupted into quiet cheers, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt truly seen. Tony's barber shop was just down the street, and she could see Tony himself standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold. His face was unreadable, but Emma didn't care. She had walked out of his shop feeling like she had lost everything, but now, she realized she had gained something far greater. As she climbed into the mayor's car, Henry by her side, she knew that her journey was just beginning. And all because of a single, free haircut.